last November, a federal judge cited a, quote, historic pattern of excessive use of force against persons in custody, close quote, at Rikers Island. As mayor, what steps would you take to protect the human rights of incarcerated people?
Well, for me, this has been a fight for a very long time. I actually went to Rikers before it became popular to do it. And what I saw was horrifying, talking to people awaiting trial, people who had been in solitary. And I became the first elected official to say it was time to shut it down. And I am glad, with so many people in this room, that that fight has been waged. Eric Adams promised to shut it down and then kicked the ball down the road for many years. We have too many people with mental health issues that shouldn't be incarcerated. They should be in secure facilities and supportive housing. We need to reinvent and reimagine what our criminal justice system can be about, but it doesn't have to be about literally people dying in jail. The worst day of my career as controller was when I settled the innocent case of a young man who died because he overheated in Rikers. And I settled the innocent case. I didn't wait for the law department. I started settling with Ken Thompson these innocent cases. And I gave the woman a very, very multi-million-dollar check. And I apologized on behalf of the city. And she looked at me and said, I don't want the money. I want my son back.
What steps would you take to protect the human rights of incarcerated people?
As someone who had to bury my brother 3 years ago for reasons we still don't know, as someone who represented Khalif Browder's family in leading the effort around Raise the Age, where I worked with many of you to change that absolutely unjust law, Rikers is an inhumane place. It needs to be closed. We clearly have a mayor who ran to be the law and order mayor who couldn't even control that, which now the feds had to jump in. Rikers is also the second largest mental health facility in the country. And we're not talking about how that must be addressed consistently. We also have to get serious about what are we doing to make sure people are not getting to Rikers in the first place. And fundamentally, these conversations are only about how do we reimagine what's happening there. Most people at Rikers haven't even been convicted of anything. They're just waiting for long periods of time, and it's unjust. So if we cut down that timeline and process, you reduce the population at Rikers so that you actually can address what's happening for a more consistent manner. Broader than that, what we need to be doing is actually focus on how do we get to a place of borough-based jails that are actually connected to the courthouse, where lawyers are representing our communities in a very real manner. Yes, Rikers is absolutely inhumane, but what is more inhumane are the conditions that are leading to Black and brown communities getting there in the first place.
I spent over a year on Rikers Island doing a very comprehensive audit of Rikers. It's a slave plantation, literally. When you go down in the basement, it's horses, it stinks. And so the culture there really reflects that, right? It's passive violence. When you feed prisoners rice and grits, and you don't really take care of who they are. What I want to do for the city, why did I talk about that business ecosystem? When people come out of prison or incarcerated, they've done all that they have to do, but they can't find jobs. Why? Because businesses like myself, there are no opportunities within our city. We need to be honest about that. So in building ecosystems, we get an opportunity to really lift people up. In those ecosystems, maybe the business owner is somebody who is formerly incarcerated, but now that business owner can also hire somebody. So you have to have a plan to close it, but you also have to have a plan to uplift individuals. Yes, it should be closed, and I have made a clear commitment that I know how to close it. And how you close it is bringing those individuals doing the work. Yes, they say that there's a plan, but I'm in the Bronx, and what people are experiencing is a lack of communication and a lack of transparency in the city. We need to know where are the locations, what exactly is it that those individuals need when they come out of being incarcerated. And so we need to go and really build community.
Thank you.
Instead of dealing with our most pressing challenges and issues, this city, over generations, over administrations, has used Rikers as the solution to our challenges. They have sent New Yorkers who are going through mental health episodes to Rikers. They have not given our young black men job opportunities. They have sent them to Rikers. Instead of dealing with the injustices in our system, people continue to be sent to Rikers. So, one, we have to follow the law. Rikers has to be closed, of course. But we're not on track right now. There's a remediation manager by way of federal action. And so we got to bring everybody to the table and say, how do we get back on track and get back expeditiously? I have done the work in the state Senate of trying to fight the drivers of crime so that we can be sending less people to jail. I was the proud sponsor of the Clean Slate Act that said, listen, if you've been convicted of a crime, you've paid your dues, you've stayed out of trouble, we're gonna help you. We're gonna seal those convictions so you can get a job, so you can get health care, so you can get financial assistance. I wanna add 50 more thousand summer youth slots to our program. My first job ever was a summer youth program, so that we can stop telling our kids what not to do and give them something to do. And I want a real plan for mental health. I want stabilization centers in our boroughs so people can get the help they need based on our clubhouse model so we can actually put people on the path to recovery.
When I was in the city council, I was proud to work with Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito to establish the Lippman Commission, the Independent Rikers Commission, which has set out the plan to close Rikers. As mayor, I will get it done. And I was the first citywide elected official to join the Nunez litigants in calling for a receiver to be appointed at Rikers, and I'm so glad that Judge Swain did. I will work with that receiver to protect people's rights in the meantime. Next mayor can do 3 big things to make sure we get Rikers closed. First, 1,500 people there every day have serious mental illness. Nobody gets better there. There was a plan to build 360 secure treatment beds, partnership between H&H and Department of Correction. Eric Adams has built 0 of them. I'll get the 360 built, and then the Lippman Commission says we probably need hundreds more. Second, we've got to reduce trial times. They're about double what they were in 2019, just before the pandemic. If we just get back to 2019 trial times, we'll have 1,500 fewer people at Rikers. And finally, it's the law that when someone is released from Rikers, and again, 87% of people just waiting for their day in court, we're obligated to assess whether they need supportive housing, and yet we don't provide them the supportive housing even when we do. So I'll make all 3 of those things happen. That'll be key to closing Rikers.
I wanted to make sure I answered this question. It's important to me. I want us to close Rikers Island. I want to see a renewable Rikers in my lifetime. That is what we should be doing with that island. And I know because it's in my backyard, right in Senate District 13. So I really want us to think about how people end up there in the first place, how folks tend to be there to wait for trial, how the trial doesn't take place, how many times they're denied phone calls with their family members, how they are given horrendous rotting prison food, and none of it actually amounts to any correction or rehabilitation, which is what the department is supposed to be doing. And none of us are better off for it. So I want to reopen a lot of the mental health institutions that have been closed. I want to actually use the supportive housing units that we need and build more. And I want us to make sure that every single person really is afforded the care that they need from the beginning. It was Frederick Douglass that said that it was easier to raise righteous people than it was to repair broken men. I know I'm paraphrasing his brilliant quote, but it's true. All we're doing is misspending $500,000 of our taxpayer dollars per person on Rikers Island when we would be better served actually helping them get the educational and economic opportunity they need.